Just some dude with
Back in the 90s, only a few films managed to make it to the mainstream audience, while the rest ended up becoming cult cinema through their DVD sales. It didn't rely on a good script or a masterful direction. All that mattered was having a crazy story married to a visual that would be stuck in your mind for a long time. One such masterpiece was the Toxic Avenger, and there seems to be sufficient appreciation for the film, considering that this year, we'll get to see the reboot of this film make it to the theaters. Let's look at the journey of the Toxic Avenger reboot and the trouble that the project went through before making it to the cinema halls this year. The Toxic Avenger Reboot. The Toxic Avenger remake had been under discussion for a long time, starting in 2010 when there had been discussions about getting Arnold Schwarzenegger to take on the mantle, but the actor left the project and joined Terminator Genisys instead. Many names went by the idea of the remake, including Guillermo del Toro and Akiva Goldsman, who were involved as the producers behind the project. Mike Arnold and Chris Poole were then attached to rewrite the screenplay. Yeah, this project had a tough time getting through. Finally, in December 2018, Legendary Pictures won the rights to the reboot, with the original film producers Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Herz of Troma Entertainment returning to their roles for the project. The Troma heads managed to bring Macon Blair on board, and in 2019, it was announced that the Blue Ruin director would be taking on the roles of director and writer for the project. If there was any worry about this choice, then that was put down by Lloyd Kaufman's statements about Macon Blair, where he mentioned that Macon Blair knows Troma better than I do. He's seen everything. He's seen the cartoon, Toxic Crusaders. He's seen the Halloween special. He's seen everything, and he loves our movies. I've read the script and it's better than the original, and I leave it to him. If I'm called upon, I'd be happy to jump in. I learned on the musical to keep the creative to the creative. I learned to let them ask, so if they want me, I'm there. I hope that Legendary keeps going. If they let Macon Blair direct it, I think it will be terrific. He knows the Troma sense of humor, the combination of slapstick and satire with the environmental theme. The casting news took the hype to the next level. In 2020, Peter Dinklage, yes, that Peter Dinklage, Tyrion Lannister himself, was cast in a major role, and more actors joined the project later. One big worry for fans of the original was the visual effects, since the classic was famous for its over-the-top, gory practical effects. But in 2022, Blair put those fears to rest by confirming that the film would stick to practical gore, and the first look images backed that up. Finally, it was time for the first responses for the project, and so, the Toxic Avenger premiered as the opening film of Fantastic Fest in September 21, 2023, and then went on to play at the Beyond Fest in September 30, 2023. Then it made its international debut at the 56th Sitges Film Festival as part of the Out of Competition section on October 13, 2023. What or who is the Toxic Avenger? So yeah, let's glance at who and what a Toxic Avenger is and why he wasn't present during the events of the Avengers saga. Toxic Avenger could be imagined as the love child of Captain America and a nuclear reactor with a face of melted mozzarella. Yeah, that face is something you will never really forget. Known by the people as Toxie, this story was brought to life in 1984 by the demented masterminds at Troma Entertainment, Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Herz. Troma Entertainment was never about making good movies in the traditional sense. No. Troma was about making fun movies, the kind where heads explode like water balloons filled with marinara, criminals get disemboweled with mop handles, and the humor is so tasteless it could be a diet soda. And the Toxic Avenger was their crown jewel, a film that gleefully shoved two radioactive middle fingers in the face of Hollywood's polished, formulaic superhero stories. It was equal parts horror, comedy, action, and pure insanity, with a sprinkle of social satire. If mainstream superhero movies were like a crisp, clean superhero suit, the Toxic Avenger was that same suit dragged through a sewer, set on fire, and then used to mop up a crime scene. This was not a film that cared about subtlety. Cops were corrupt, businessmen were evil, and the town's bullies were so over the top that they made the villains from The Karate Kid look like polite exchange students. And the violence? Ho ho ho! It was deliciously absurd. Heads crushed by weights, limbs are torn off like wet paper towels, a seeing eye dog getting shot in the most unnecessary but oddly hilarious moment of animal cruelty ever put on film. But despite all the gore and grotesquerie, the Toxic Avenger was, at its heart, a superhero film for the outcasts. the weirdos, and the people who had been bullied. Toxie was proof that even the most awkward nerd could become a hulking, mop-wielding force for justice, assuming that they were lucky enough to get bathed in mutagenic sludge. When the film first slimed its way onto screens, audiences didn't know what hit them. It wasn't a mainstream hit, because mainstream audiences tend to avoid films where people are deep-fried in restaurant kitchens, but the midnight movie crowd? Oh, they loved it. College students, punks, horror nerds, and fans of general cinematic anarchy flocked to the Toxic Avenger as a mutant flies to a radioactive corpse. It was the kind of movie you heard about from a friend with a questionable VHS collection. You'd watch it at 2 a.m., possibly in a smoke-filled basement, and immediately question your life choices while simultaneously demanding to see it again. It was dumb, but it was smart about being dumb. It reveled in its B-movie madness and didn't care about impressing critics. Though, ironically, it did win some years later. The film became a symbol of underground cinema, proving that you didn't need a big budget or a coherent script to make something unforgettable. After this amazing hit, Toxie didn't just stay in Tromaville. He slimed his way into the cultural consciousness. There were Toxic Avenger sequels, each one even more insane than the last. A children's cartoon, yes, really. Comic books, video games, even a Broadway musical. Because why the hell not? So you realize this project is something that cannot just have any studio come along and do a reboot, and we're lucky that the crazy people behind Troma came back for the reboot. When is the Toxic Avenger reboot coming out? The reboot also received positive reviews from audiences who got a first look. The audience instantly compared it with the original and realized that Macon Blair had put some genuine effort into the project, but the reboot didn't have a clear path yet because the film went into distribution limbo right after the festivals. In July 2024, it was reported that this limbo was because of the difficulty in getting a distributor for the project, even though the audiences had some strong interest in the film. The excess gore and graphic content resulted in the film being labeled as unreleasable by many in the industry. Over time, it was stated that the film might never make it into the public's eyes and get shelved for a long time to come. But there was always an audience for this reboot, and we know what this audience could do when we saw Zack Snyder's Justice League finally coming to fruition after the terrible attempt that Joss Whedon made. So, the tide turned in early 2025, and Cineverse stepped in to take the distribution rights to the film and clear the path to make it to the audiences. According to the official announcement, the film will hit the US theaters on August 29. The official synopsis of the film goes like this. Armed with his signature mop, the unlikely hero battles freaks, gangsters, and corrupt CEOs while trying to save his relationship with his son. The story channels the subversive gonzo energy of the original Toxic Avenger while delivering a fresh, contemporary twist. Indie darling and director Macon Blair shared his enthusiasm about the announcement by stating that it's so cool that folks will have the chance to see this in theaters. It's a fun, rowdy movie you want to see with a crowd. Mutant hero smashes bad guys with a mop. Perfect entertainment for the whole family. Our goal was always to preserve the heart and spirit of the original Toxie, which was seared into my brain at a very young age, and try to make something that Troma fans would dig, and at the same time, do something with a character that feels fresh. Lloyd and Michael at Troma have been a blast to work with. Absolutely everyone at Legendary are stars, and I can't wait to start working with the champs at Cineverse to bring this version of Toxie to fans new and old. So get ready to witness the blood and gore and everything that will be a part of this amazing journey, coming soon to theaters near you. The amazing cast for the film. If you still aren't excited about the project, let's give you a hint about the actors who will be appearing in the film in some of the wackiest and craziest roles. Elijah Wood of the Lord of the Rings fame will get back into his once-in-a-while villainous takes by appearing as the villainous Fritz Garbinger. Remember Wood's character from Sin City? Take that and his latest appearance in Osgood Perkins' The Monkey, and you know that Elijah Wood won't hold back at delivering us with a memorable villain. The photos that have been revealed make him appear completely unrecognizable, and it is better that the rest of the details about his character have been kept under wraps. Last but not least, we have the lead himself, Toxic Avenger, portrayed by Peter Dinklage, with some changes to the iconic appearance. Blair managed to change a bit of the character's origin story by moving it from the character falling into toxic waste to him being diagnosed with a terminal illness. So we're not entirely sure how the iconic character will gain his powers this time, but we know that being aware that he is going to die will definitely make sure that he brings his best to go against the villains. Talking about the casting choice and the character redesign, Blair stated, "The goal was to try to stay true to the vibe of Lloyd's original Jennifer Aspinall Mitch Cohen creature, with some influence from the Toxic Crusaders cartoon's look, while also trying to do something new and weird and lovable with Toxie's design. I love what Millennium FX did with it. Part human, part mutant, all heart. It goes back to that 20-minute window at the top of the movie where it's kind of like, we really have to draw people into this character and his plight. The way he's trying to connect with his kid, the way he's kind of out of sorts in society and has been dealt a raw deal. And if they're not sympathizing with him by then, by the time he turns into the monster, then they're not going to get on board after that point. So we know that we wanted an actor who could instantly engender that kind of sympathy in the audience, could also be very funny both with dialogue and also physicality, and can also be quite dark and full of rage, and kind of check all these boxes. Marvelous verdict. The Toxic Avenger Reboot success with the mainstream audience might prove the fact that Troma had something interesting on their hands, and it might pave the way for other Troma Universe projects to get an interesting reboot. Even though it sounded absolutely bizarre back then that a B-grade gorefest would become someone's favorite, even a Broadway musical, and follow with a reboot, it just shows that people enjoyed the story. It became an essential part of their memory. Macon Blair's effort to bring the same charm to a different generation might result in a whole new level of admiration for the B-grade projects of that time.